So, hello everyone. I know some of you, I don't know all of you, but it's good to have you all here. I'm really excited that you're all able to come, and I was able to come on a beautiful day to come to the San Diego area, so and get to stay the weekend. Oops. So, I just couldn't make it back on tonight. Sorry about that, everyone. But I just, as I've been praying about what to share with y'all, I just think, I've been in the South for a while, so
nice.
Sorry.
Sounds good to me.
My boss says, "What's wrong?" I've been in the South. I can't help it. So y'all. I just, for me, I think right now in publishing and what I feel my responsibility is outside of the job I do every day, is to bring a message of hope to writers. Because I think it's a really challenging industry. I think it always has been. I think now, though, it's even more challenging. I love going to writers' conferences, and this is going to sound terrible, but the first day everybody's so hopeful, and by the second day they're not so much. And that's not the part I love. But just once they start getting the realistic viewpoint of what's happening, especially in Christian publishing, I think that there's that heart that just kind of sinks because they feel like there's not an opportunity for them to use their ministry or to use the gift that God's given them. And my takeaway is, and if I had my way, I would publish every great book that comes across my desk. There'd be no question. I don't have my way. I have people who work above me that make decisions, and a lot of them we have to make. It's just it's hard to be in publishing if you're even on the other side of the desk right now, because we have to say no to a lot of good books. But I think for me, what has really been a passion of my heart and a call this year is to encourage you to use your gift. A published book is not the be-all and end-all of writing, and I think it's the least. I think if you can use your gift to write a letter to a friend, you remember those letters? Remember pens? I see some of you have some. Okay, so it's old school, but that's okay. We just have so fallen off what our goal is to be with our gifts, and that's end user ministry. It's not signing a contract. That's a great gift if it happens. I really believe that. It's an honor. It's a privilege when God says, "I want to take this through these means." But the greater gift is to touch one person's heart in life. I firmly believe in, Mother Teresa, one at a time. And that's, I've talked to several people in the course of my publishing travels, and they're always asking, I don't know who to write to. I'm like, well, write to one person. Because you'll touch a world if you write to one, because so many of us share the same thing. So I think just for me, just wanting to bring a message of hope that I don't know how the Lord's going to do what he's going to do with your gift. All I know is you need to be convinced and confirmed that you have it and run with it. However he charts the course for you. And if you happen to encounter a publishing contract along the way, God bless you, Godspeed. If not, keep running. Don't stop, because there's a world who desperately needs to hear, even more now, the words of life. However we choose to write them, whether it be fiction, nonfiction, whether it be strictly from the Word, or whether it be the things that I try and do. I try and take the Word and reconstruct them in a way that people on Facebook that aren't Christians will get hope from them. Especially my family. I have a lot of family that aren't believers, and they're friends on Facebook. I keep waiting for them to all unfriend me. They haven't yet, but because I'm trying to stay really true to what I believe my call is for writing right now, and that's hope and encouragement and blessing other people. But one of the things I love about Renee, and I think one of the reasons we get along, is she really believes in connecting people. And that's, my boss told me that, he goes, "You are just the ultimate connector." I'm like, that's a good compliment. Do I get a raise for that or what?
Yeah.
I really try in my travels. I listen a lot when I travel. I listen to what other people do, what other people write, what their hopes and dreams are, and I'm like, oh, back there I met her, then that might be able to help that. So I'll connect people. And with Renee, one of the things we've been doing in the last couple of months is authors that I'm working with. I said, hey, how about, could they guest post for you, and we'll train some things around. And my boss, again, he's like laughing because none of the men that are authors for us are really interested in that. The women are like, yeah, Kim, we'll do it. I've got all these authors circling, helping each other. I'm like, we're women. Notice, there's only one boy in the room here.
Yeah.
You know, and I included some men on the invite I sent out, and I'm like, I wasn't surprised.
Yeah.
Because, well, they couldn't handle all these women anyway, but they're just not as connected, or wanting to be as connected as we are. And I love the fact that I think although we all try and use social media in a good way, we're all kind of realizing that's not reality.
Yeah.
That this is reality, face-to-face is reality. So I wanted to know if there's any questions that I can address specifically, which is always really dangerous, but we'll open it up to that.
Yeah.
And, well, I'll ask a question.
Okay.
So how many of you are currently blogging?
For someone else.
Well, it kind of makes sense for what you
Yeah.
do. So, and how many of you would consider yourself introverts?
Friendly, but an introvert.
Yeah.
Yes, a friendly introvert.
A friendly
Yeah.
introvert. You can be a friendly introvert. It's
I'm
not,
an
it's not a
outgoing-
disease to be an introvert.
yeah,
It's
an
okay to
outgoing
admit it. It's all right.
Very outgoing, but definitely introvert. Yeah.
But you are not an introvert.
Yes, I
at all.
am.
Yeah.
After this, I'll be like, go away.
Go away.
Yeah.
It's because I'm an introvert as well, and people, when I say that, they think I'm lying. They tell me I'm lying.
Same here.
And I'm like, no, because if there's a certain time when like conferences, I'm like, gotta go. You
Yeah.
want to talk to me right now. And so it's just, but a lot of us who are writing tend to be on the introvert side. And so there's a real challenge, I think, that some of you might be facing with what it requires now for an author to be publishable.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a wide social media sphere of influence, what some people call a platform. I don't like the word platform personally. I'm doing my best, and I started last year at San Diego Writers Conference to change the language about this. I don't like the word platform because that indicates I'm trying to elevate myself. And what we are trying to elevate, what we are doing is we are elevating the name of Christ. We are building a larger platform for Him. And so I like to talk about my sphere of influence. Who am I influencing, and how can I make that bigger? It's kind of like the ripple in the pond effect. When a publisher looks at an author and we see that author is hitting that center of the target, we can go, oh, but so we can go like this now.
Mm-hmm.
We can pull the ripples out. But if an author's not hitting that center sphere of influence in a strong way, then we're not ready. It's not ready yet. And so that's kind of, and I know it's a challenge. I talk to a lot of prospective authors, and they really struggle with this whole aspect of having to be so involved in social media and knowing social media and which ones to use and what's really effective and how often should I blog and all these different things, because you don't want to step away from the real gift. We don't want Susie social networking all the time so she never writes another novel.
That'd be sad.
Yeah.
Well, right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people, you get so caught up in trying to build that sphere that you forget to do what you're supposed to be doing the sphere for. And so I just think it's a real challenge, especially for introverts, because you're asked, maybe there was a point in time, and I don't really remember it a lot in publishing. I've been at Regal for almost 19 years now. I don't ever remember a time where there was not a need for an author to be out in front in some way or another. But now it's like, you are it, and we stand behind you because, thanks to the change in how advertising's gone and marketing, we all, in publishing our office, we like to say we blame TiVo for everything. Because now with TiVo you can pass by every commercial. So nobody wants to hear from corporate. They want a relationship. They want it to be based on relationships. So with you out in front, we can support you, but we need you out in front. And so it's been, I know people are challenged as introverts, and they go, but I'm an introvert, I just want to write. I'm like, I get that. But hello, welcome to the real world. Find your extrovert hat. You're going to have to put it on, right, Marcy? Yeah. Find the hat, and you're going to put it on. But so just, as you're thinking about what you're doing, focus on your talent and your gift first. Don't get lost in the pursuit of something. Focus on your gift, but also be asking the Lord how you can build your sphere wider and wider all the time. How can you reach other people? How can you reach outside of your normal Christian circle? Which I think is another thing I hope, pray, fasting for, that the Lord is calling Christian publishing out of Christian churches.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you just said.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because the challenge has been is Christians publish for Christians.
Yep.
We are oversaturated,
Yeah. So.
overread, and underdeveloped.
Yep.
Because we are not reaching outside the church walls. So I believe it's time for the Christian publishing world to look for ways to reach outside the walls of a church and start helping authors reach people. Because there's a whole world that needs to be reached. It's not just the people inside the churches. And I think we can be utilized through many different forms of writing to help reach the world for Christ. I mean, there's more an availability for, let's say, for you to reach Africa now than ever before. Because there's cell phones in Africa where they're checking the internet all the time. Where we all thought it would be impossible to get a Bible to the inner parts of Africa. Now they're right there. Yeah. So, God has means and ways that we know nothing of, except now we know something of them. So as the church, what are we going to do with all this social media? Are we going to start saying it's bad because it's taking all our time? Or are we going to start utilizing it for His glory and His kingdom's expansion? So that, just want to encourage you, think about how you can grow your sphere. I remember a few years ago at the San Diego conference, the whole discussion the night of the panel was about crossover books. Remember that was the thing then? I want to write a crossover book, and I'm thinking, and Jenny knows me very well because I let the other panel people answer the question because I'm just like little old me popping up, and I just, at the end I'm like, excuse me, can I say something?
Yeah.
Hello. And I just said, and I explained my life. I mean, my life, I work for a company that's a Christian publishing company, so most of the people I work with are Christians. I've been in the church for over 35 years. All my friends are Christian. So what business do I have writing to the secular market right now? If I'm not out with them, understanding them, talking to them, all I'm going to be doing is preaching at them. That's not the way we write anymore. We don't preach at people anymore. We have conversation through our writing. So my challenge to them was, well, if you want to cross over, you better cross over. You need to be involved with them. Are you going to coffee with them? And it was a real challenge in my life because I had honestly, truly, no non-Christians in my life except my family at that point. And I went home from that conference and said, okay, Lord, this has got to change. And it has, and it's been really amazing. It's challenging, but it's amazing. So just kind of think about those things. We're really comfortable within the walls. And it's safe there. But I don't know that the world's going to be safe anywhere anymore. So how do you all, with your gift, your talent, begin to stretch and reach out? How do your works, before they even become published, begin to touch people's lives in ways you never thought? That's the drive for Facebook for me. That's why I post the way I do. There's so much good. There's so much good. And I just want people to get an idea that it's there. So,
as a publisher, I would like to know, what do you think publishers should be doing to help authors with social media? Should they? Is that their role? For instance, when a book comes out, different publishers will say nothing, some will say something, and then some will go all out. What do you think has worked for you, Regal? Have you seen other people do? Because that's the flip side of the coin, of someone who said, I feel like I do too much social media, so I'm trying to pull back so I don't annoy people. So, but as a publisher, how can we come together? What do you think would be?
Well, I think the whole idea is, and no, I don't think it's our responsibility, because our responsibility is to publish really good books.
Okay. And
to get them into the market for you. That's the trade market. That's the new markets we're all out there trying to find at this point in time. I believe it's our responsibility to partner with you in social media to see what we can see that seems to be working for other best-selling authors and find ways to adapt that, to be able to share with you things that some of our authors are doing that have had incredible success, to say, here's some case studies, look at the things they've done, you might want to consider this. But I think for us to take it on, again, it's not your social media, it becomes your publisher-driven social media. It's not always just about selling your book. It's about you as the author first. And that's one of the, I brought a couple of these books, I'll give them away later, but there's a lot of talk about this platform social, here with social media and all this stuff. So, and I do realize that someone much more famous and much more higher up wrote a book called Platform. For me, I felt Platform was a little bit too in-depth and too fourth-level college for me. So, and when he opened it up, his book, I think it's in the first paragraph, says, "You're just like me." I just laughed out loud. I am so not like Michael Hyatt.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you guys.
Thank you. Somebody has to say it.
Seriously, who has a team of all those people and all that money and all that stuff? So I'm not like Michael Hyatt. So that
what
kind
did the first sentence say? I didn't
you're just like me. I'm just like you,
Oh,
and I'm like,
that's-
that lost me right there.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's not going to work because no, I'm not. So a few
But-
years ago, we worked with Phil Cook. Phil Cook is a branding marketing genius in the Christian world. He has worked with people like Joel Osteen, T.D. Jakes, Joyce Meyer, some of the biggest names you'll know, to brand and market them and to keep their brand consistent. So we did a book with him a few years ago, and it was doing okay, but then he called about 16, 18 months ago, and he said, Kim, we've got to redo the book. And I'm like, no, it just came out. I'm like, my head, the formula, there's a formula. We don't do it this way. We don't do it this way.
Yeah.
And he said, but Kim, I wrote the book before social media hit. So there's nothing in there about social media. I'm like, oh, danger, danger, danger. So he took the book and revised what he had in there, and he added the content for social media. What I love about Unique from Phil Cook is that it not only talks about the sphere of influence social media use, it talks about branding yourself and marketing yourself. And I think branding as an author is incredibly important because I think you need to have an overall brand. Then you start doing things that fit into that brand, or that you make sure they filter through that brand somehow. You don't just do these one-off books that don't connect anywhere. You have to figure out a way to make everything you do connect, because that's how your sphere of influence grows, right? The more your name connects on every level, your blogging, your social media, any other social media, your book writing, your article writing, the more that happens, the bigger your sphere of influence is going to be. But it's finding out how to do that. So I recommend this book, and like I said, I'm going to give a couple away later, but
Sweet.
yeah. So that's kind of how I see it. I think we have to partner with you. And, our team, we have, our whole author toolkit has a whole set pages that is so funny. It used to be like 3 or 4 lines way in the back. Now it's all in the front. Because truly, it is the best thing you can bring to us is an active, effective social media sphere of influence. So, but for those of you who are writing to women, especially, we went so long in Christian publishing and wrote books that were just simple platitudes and just, Band-Aid scriptures. And
Right.
man, we're so past that, people. I mean, women in the church are hurting. And if they're coming to church and not getting ministered to, because we're also afraid to say, what is the standard? How are you doing today? Oh, I'm great. And you drive home crying because you're so wounded inside, but you're not willing to be vulnerable because we don't have a vulnerable society in the church right now. So how can we change that? By the way we write. And you have to be really brave when you start. And you're right, you don't have to reveal everything, but you trust the Lord to show you how much to reveal. And I think that's really important, maybe not just for women, maybe for the church as a whole. I mean, it's just time, I think, that we take the walls down. Again, like I said, get out, let's not be in the walls anymore. We're not supposed to be. I think, when you initially are starting out doing something, I think you have to think long term. Because as your life continues to grow, your ministry continues to grow, you're going to get busier and busier and busier. You're not always going to be able to respond personally to send things out to people. So you have to be thinking in your head how you're going to continue what you feel your ministry is to be about. How are you going to bring other people alongside to help you? How are you going to start learning how to reference people who need to get, you have to be thinking long term as well as short term. And you don't want to get yourself so bogged down into, sending things out. And we all want to pray for people, but can you get a prayer team together that can help you with those kind of things? Or just think about that. And I think, we all come to the point where, we encounter people that, oops, I probably shouldn't have friended that person. It's funny, it must have been the week before, because it just happened to me last week as well. I was trying to be kind to somebody, and then it was like all these messages that were just not appropriate. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay, Lord, do I go back and say, I was just trying to be kind, unfortunately, to a military service person? Oh.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh, he's in Iraq. Oh, it's so bad. And it's like, and mutual friends. So it wasn't like it was just some stranger. And I thought, but he just wouldn't let up. And I'm like, okay, so God bless you, keep you safe.
Yeah.
I have to let you go, because again, it's like it'd be just coming to that point of what, because of what you do, what kind of boundaries or requirements can you set up? Like for you, Jenny, it has to be once you come to one of the fall conferences, and you've talked to some people here and gone to some classes. I think you have to do that, especially because that your call is to help your pastor right now and other people. Right, you don't have time to be pulled, and the challenge is, I think, there's not, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't find a lot of writer mentors out there.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are hard because
You know, because I mean,
Yeah.
I'm constantly at writers' conferences. Can you be my mentor? I'm like,
well, we got
no.
email.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No. Talk a little bit about social media. Nielsen did a survey on social media a couple years ago. It's on Michael Hyatt's blog. He has the survey results, and there was over 30 different social media sites at that time that they researched and did reviews on to see what were the most popular, who was using what, the demographics and that kind of thing. And I think that's the kind of information you have to have before you can decide, because it depends on what you're writing.
Yeah.
If you're writing to young adults, teens, Facebook isn't your first option. Teens are not on Facebook. They all abandon it when their parents and grandparents
Yeah.
got on it to follow them
Oh
around.
my gosh.
Because all of a sudden, wait, everybody knows what I'm doing. How come? Well, so they're on other, I think they're on Tumblr,
Tumblr, Twitter,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's kind of knowing what your demographic is and what sites they're using, and then how they're using them. You know, people get mad because they get on Facebook and they start trying to sell product, and they get unfriended. They get
Yeah.
Facebook is, we all know this, right? But I'm going to say it anyway. Facebook is not a place to sell. Facebook is a community. It's a place to connect. All it is. I mean, every once in a while I'll post one of our new book covers, or I'll talk about a book, but just because I really like the books we publish, and I think they help people. So,
Yeah.
but I'm not always on there saying, buy this, buy that, you know, here, we'll give you a special offer. And that's what we had to learn, because when we first started using Facebook, we were we were trying to sell products, and it was like, unfriend.
Yeah.
Unfriend.
Yeah.
I think
Totally.
it's going in the wrong direction. I think we need to revise this.
Yeah.
So now we do it a little differently. But so it's kind of, you know, doing your, again, a lot about publishing in the initial stages is about doing research and due diligence for an agent, for publishing companies, and also for social media. And as quickly as things are changing, oh my goodness. So last night, I don't know if y'all saw it, trending on the CNN website, an article about Twitter and how they're facing issues because all of a sudden people aren't quite responding to the 140 character.
Yeah.
And like, who would have thought? But I just so happened that like 11:30 last night, and I saw it. I'm like, oh.
What was the point of it?
That Twitter wasn't hitting as hard as it used to be. That
Yeah.
they're kind of losing some of their
Yep.
establishment. And you're like, okay, so now Twitter's gone. Pinterest kind of came and
Oh yeah. That's gone.
well, it's not gone, but it's not
For me.
for writers.
Right.
I mean, you know, if you recipes, home decorating ideas,
Weddings.
weddings, women and brides and bridesmaids are all over it. So if that's something you're doing and it makes sense, you should be on there. For a book company, we all went, maybe not. So now we're toying around with Instagram right now, and and LinkedIn. So what's LinkedIn? Is there a benefit? You know, well, probably in connection wise, there is somewhere. I mean, I love how people always are endorsing me for things I don't do.
Totally.
I'm like, I get endorsed for being an author? Okay, we'll take that as prophetic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, thank you so much, but
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of interesting to see how people are using that. But that one is probably the fastest growing right now is LinkedIn. I keep up with all this because I want to know how to use what I'm doing well, because I have limited time as well. So I think you too. It's like that's what I love about the CNN website. If they post trending articles, and that's what you want to know about. So I'm on there 2 or 3 or 4 times a day, just kind of seeing what's trending now, and of course following all the major stuff too. But like what's down below, it's like what their belief blog is incredibly informative.
Which blog?
Yeah.
Belief blog on CNN.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary sometimes because it's all about any belief. But wow, what we ask authors to do now is to go after their own endorsements, because I'm telling you, personal connection is what it's all about. So we get a much better response rate when an author asks people they know or people they know who know people to help them. We get a better response rate. And then, I'll ask for some as well, but most of the time, most of the ones we're getting are coming from authors. And what I tell writers at conferences, you all know more people than you think you know. The thing is to always have the edited manuscript in front of them. Very seldom in the schedule does that happen anymore.
Right.
Because they don't, after you've read a manuscript and you've endorsed it, you don't want them to go in and make a change that's going to be contrary to your ministry or your life message. So, but yeah, we send the whole manuscript. And we do it all by email unless they request a hard copy because you know I kind of got tired of cutting down trees. So.
Yeah.
And one of the things they say that works really well on Facebook is asking questions.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what he does.
Oh.
Letting people jump in and voice into things. You know, putting, you know, if you get to this point where you have to choose a title or a cover, throw it out there
Yeah.
with the permission of your publisher, please.
Yeah, you did
We
that.
did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge
I
response to that.
love it because I get to vote on other
Yeah.
companies' work. I think it's
Yeah.
cool.
Survey Monkey.
You don't have to be so overtly screaming at people
Right.
anymore because they're not responding to our screaming. Have you noticed?
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of over our picket signs and our screaming and our yelling at things. We just need to be, you know, interesting. Just I was listening to the radio coming down, and there was a song about just be the light because he's the light. So how are you being the light? That's my question to writers. How are you being the light? Because light attracts; it does not repel. Holiness is beautiful. It attracts. It does not repel. The Lord tastes good. He doesn't taste bad. So how are you making people taste him and taste that he's good? See, that's the questions you need to be asking yourself about whatever writing you're doing. We're not, I mean, I will not, I'm like Renee, I will not get involved in political discussions on any of my social media, any of it. I just let it go. Because it's, why? It's just going to be inane babbling
Mm-hmm.
for hours about nothing that we can fix anyway.
Yeah.
So I just like, no, you know, I'm just going to post my little truth. I'm just going to post my happy spot,
Yeah.
you know, and that's what I do. Or my flowers, or my niece, or my surrogate
Mhm.
niece, or whatever
My
I do,
dog.
you know, or my dogs, you know. But so I just think, you know, question: how are you being the light? Because that's the ultimate requirement for all of us. How are we carrying out the Great Commission? With more in our hands to be able to accomplish it now than ever before, and being the least effective we've ever been.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, how are we being the light? How, you know, my question to myself is, how are you being the light to the clerk at Target? How are you being the light to the customer service person on the phone
Ugh.
that's not getting you what you want?
Yeah.
Jesus loves you anyway.
Yeah.
But how are you being the light, Kim? Did you leave that person feeling better about the day or worse? Did you leave them with any hope? Or did you just spare them? So how, I mean, and that's what we have in our hands to do. We have all that ability because you have a pen, you have a keyboard. You can be the light. I think you have to write according to what you feel your calling is. And I think you have to not so much about timing, I think you have to look for market.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you mentioned about your parenting book, that's brilliant. You saw a need in the market that's going to be bigger and bigger as the years go by. This screen-faced youth generation we're raising up. So that's an amazing sight into the future. And I think the same thing for any writer. It's like, okay, so this is what I know my passion is. How do I go about writing in this passion, even if somebody won't publish a book?
Right.
Because there's always somebody who needs to hear your message, I believe. It's just knowing, I think you have to follow your passion. You don't want to follow the popular, you don't want to follow what's going to get published or whatever. You got to follow your passion.
Yeah.
You will not be satisfied. You're not satisfying God with your gift.
Yep.
And you're not going to touch the people you need to touch. So follow your passion.